Hey everybody, Chaz Molder, Mayor of the City of Columbia, coming to you today for virtual town hall number 10. As you know, over the last several weeks, we've been hosting these virtual town halls that started with the onset of the COVID-19 crisis that provided the City of Columbia an opportunity to provide some information to you, to show you continuity of government, and also just to be transparent with regard to what's happening during the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. Of course, over the last several weeks and with each passing day, we continue to reemerge from this crisis and begin the economic comeback that we all long for and have been talking about. And we've been real pleased to continue these virtual town halls as we begin that process. And today, I'm very excited to have a longtime friend of mine, the director of Columbia Main Street, Kristi Martin. Last week, we met with the director of the Murray County Health Department, Andy Kinney, and I mentioned that Andy and I go way back, at least till about middle school, from what I can remember, as long as I've been knowing Andy. And today, our guest, Kristi Martin, I actually go farther back than middle school with Kristi, because Kristi's been knowing me for a long time. So Kristi, we're glad to have you here today, and thanks for joining us. And tell us about where you're joining us from at the moment.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor Molder. I am live from Main Street. I'm with my friends at Taps Off Main, and we're right here on the square in beautiful downtown Columbia.
Well, good deal. We've really enjoyed having Taps Off Main as one of our newer merchants in the downtown district, and also appreciated the way that Taps Off Main has been very innovative during this crisis and taken to social media and finding creative ways outside the box to continue with their business. And so it's been really refreshing to see businesses such as Taps Off Main and many downtown merchants sort of lead the way in that regard. So we're glad to have you joining us from location in downtown Columbia. Kristi, just to start out, for those who live in the area that might not be familiar with Columbia Main Street, just as the director of Main Street, how would you define the Columbia Main Street organization?
Columbia Main Street is a 501c3, and we are accredited by the National Main Street Organization, which is part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. We also are certified by our local Tennessee Main Street program, and we have been about the work of revitalizing downtown Columbia for close to 30 years now. So that's a little bit about who we are, and would love to talk more about what we do.
Well, yeah, and let's do that just going next, because there's a lot that your organization does. And your organization has been a constant over the past 30 plus years. And during those 3+ decades, you've been around in good times and bad times. And particularly the last several years, I think you would even say that we've had some very good times in our downtown district. So sort of talk about your prognosis on the downtown district, at least from the prior to the COVID-19 pandemic onset.
Well, Chaz, I reflect back to the early 80s when Columbia was, many of our downtown buildings were shuttered. We were in search of facade improvements, and that's about the same time that the National Main Street Organization started. And some of our local leaders at that time saw the merit in a Main Street program, and so they endeavored to begin the effort here. And the buildings in our downtown district look nothing like they do now. It's interesting to go back and look at photographs of what we were then. We were not alone. That was not a problem that was unique to Columbia. You were seeing that across the country. But the good news is that we had a collaboration nationally, and Columbia took part of that, and now you'll see our beautifully restored buildings in downtown Columbia. So that was the first phase of turning downtown around. And then I would say over the past decade, we had set the stage. We had had streetscape improvements in addition to building improvements, and we began to recruit and find local businesses to set up in our buildings. And we have really seen a nice mix of business in the downtown district. And I think you can agree with that. You've served on the Main Street Board, and you've seen where we've been and where we were going. And we just, we've been really fortunate with an eclectic mix. We have everything from tap rooms, such as where I sit today, to spas and businesses that carry gifts and home design. And we have Variety Records, which is certainly a unique item for a downtown district. We've got a local bookstore. We've got a really nice mix in our inventory here. And then our mainstay, the Murray County court system that operates out of our courthouses here. We have City Hall, we have our library, we have several downtown churches. So we're a nice diversified downtown community. And that's very pleasing and very ensures success for a community.
Well, it's interesting to hear the history of how Main Street came to be in Columbia, and frankly, as individuals in positions of leadership today, you included, it sort of almost serves as a reminder of our duty. If folks had the vision 30 plus years ago to create a Main Street community, those who are in position of leadership 30 years later have a duty to ensure that vision and legacy continues on for the next 30 years. And it's really been neat to see your leadership and sort of see our downtown community flourish over the last several decades for sure. One of the sort of assets in the inventory that you didn't touch on that I'm sure you'd probably like to is the number of residential units that we're seeing downtown. That seems to be something on the rise in downtown Columbia. And what is your thought, and can you speak to the increasing residential units in the downtown district?
I'd be happy to talk about that, Chaz. One of your predecessors, Mayor Barbara McIntyre, worked with Columbia Main Street. We had the desire to go about facilitating downtown residential, and Mayor McIntyre at that time helped to ensure that the ordinances would support that element. And then we recruited a couple of property owners who were sitting with underutilized upper stories of their buildings, and with the city's good partnership, we were able to bring about some downtown apartments. And in fact, where I'm sitting today, there's a beautiful residence up above, and that's what we would call a work-live space. The proprietor here, he operates out of the street level, and then he has his residence upstairs. So that is a Main Street success. And add to that, if you were to consider basement level that is used for storage in our buildings downtown, you can certainly totally maximize the use of a downtown building and bring about a healthy community that way. We are, I believe, close to 13 residential units now, and I would like to say that we have room for more. We would like to see certainly more development in downtown residents. I personally have a downtown apartment, and I can tell you, as a lease component, I'm never at a shortage of folks who are interested in occupying downtown spaces for their housing.
Well, it's good to know the number 13 residential units now in downtown Columbia, and you heard it from the director herself. There are room for more. You're right, Kristi. It seems like having that residential piece downtown is so important to the vibrancy, because what it does is it brings people down there who are already living there, and as they have visitors, and the more people you have in the downtown district, the more commerce that can be supported. And so it's been really neat to see that number rise, and hopefully it can continue. You mentioned the Murray County Courthouse, which is sort of the symbol that we think of, so to speak, when we think of downtown Columbia, and of course the public square being a large component of our Columbia Main Street. But really, the downtown district is much broader than just the courthouse and the square around it. Just what's the footprint of the downtown district that you sort of see under your jurisdiction?
Well, several blocks northeast, south, and west of the square. And we go east a block beyond the square. In the southward direction, we take in West 8th Street. And then as you head west, we go as far as our downtown churches, and then on the north side we're just beyond City Hall. And so that's a number of blocks. It's a very it's a good sized downtown district. And what we don't capture, some of our other historic districts here in the city of Columbia are included. And together we all try to work through the Historic Zoning Commission to ensure that we are good stewards of our historic properties, and not just what exists, but we also look at how can we create and further develop what we have. And, you know, for instance, recently we saw a grocery store space become vacant in our Columbia Commercial Historic District. It's not on the square, it's several blocks away, but Main Street had an interest in that. And we realized that it was important to see that grocery store, something continue to operate there. And I'm excited to tell you that Foodland will be coming back to that location, and they're scheduled to open in mid-June. So we try to pay attention. It matters to us what is going on. And of course, the city has the streetscape project that's currently underway on West 7th Street. And I know the value of a streetscape project. They're painful, and during construction, it's a hardship for the community. But we do believe in those. We saw that in the downtown district, on the square, on North and South Main Street, and we saw the Garden Street project. And you know, when you're working on your infrastructure, then that is going to be another tool as you strive to grow your community. It's important that your infrastructure be in good order and be improved and maintained. And so I applaud the City of Columbia for the work that they're doing to carry that out, and we'll further our efforts in that direction.
Well, you know, Kristi made a good point. I hadn't even really thought about it. As painstaking of a process as the West 7th Street streetscape project is, and for those of us like you and me who live in or near downtown, who battle it on a multiple times per day basis, we can certainly speak to the pain. However, perhaps there's no better exhibit to the success and the outcomes of what a streetscape project can bring than the streetscape projects, plural, that have occurred over the last several years in the downtown district. And so thanks for making that point with regard to the end result being worth it. Also, thanks for breaking the news here. You heard it live on virtual town hall number 10 that there will be a grocery store returning to the location where Foodland left, and it's going to be another variation of Foodland. So that'll be, again, it's important to have some diversity downtown from a business perspective, also residential, but also to have some retail and some grocery retail in or near the downtown district is important as well. You mentioned the footprint of the downtown district being broader than just the square itself. There's some important reasons on why somebody might want to be within that footprint. Most notably today anyway, is that the property owners within the downtown district would be eligible for a new grant that the City of Columbia just received, known as the Facade Improvement Grant. And so talk about that grant a little bit, and if somebody's a property owner and are interested, where they can go to learn more.
Well, the Columbia Commercial Historic District is in a position, property and business owners are able to apply for grant funding that was made available through the Tennessee Economic and Community Development. And the City of Columbia was awarded a sum of approximately $25,000, excuse me. And that $125,000 will be made available by application to those who are either property owners or business owners in the downtown district. There's a criteria for being approved for those grant funds, And we're encouraging our business and property owners to take a look at that opportunity, to consider what enhancements they might wish to make at their place of business. This could go for signage, it could go for awnings, exterior lighting, painting, new windows, doorways, among other items that might qualify. And for more information, one could go to the city's website, and there is a link there for the Facade Grant. You can find the application there, the grant criteria, and most anything that you would need to approach that opportunity. And then the Main Street office, as well as South Central Tennessee Development District, stand ready to assist those who might consider applying and ultimately are awarded the funds.
Well, you make a good point about South Central Tennessee Development District, because they were an important partner in that. And of course, we find it important in the city of Columbia to have those strategic partnerships, and Main Street being a good, an important strategic partner. But then to see also the South Central Development District become a part of that grant process, and for us all working together, certainly was a positive thing. Kristi, real quick, because I do want to touch on the farmers market to close, but before we do that, we were talking about the momentum and the progress that had been seen in downtown Columbia over the last several years. Specifically, the last 24 months seemingly have been just really some success downtown, unlike we've seen in a long time. But then obviously the COVID-19 crisis hit, and I touched on it at the top, Taps Off Main being one of the many examples of downtown businesses that really kept going and was getting creative on social media and still finding ways to scrape and fight and to bring in business even during a downturn. Just talk briefly about your thoughts about the downtown district now and how it's positioned to sort of begin that comeback as the Tennessee Pledge continues to go through with more and more reopenings.
Well, I will say that our downtown retailers are rock stars in my book. It's been amazing to watch them approach this recent situation. And I know that there has been hardship and challenge like nothing we've seen before, but they have been creative in their response. We have seen several initiatives that our local businesses pursued. And so that, and the fact that we were on a pretty good footing when this struck, and I have been impressed. We've continued to see construction in the downtown district. There have been several property owners that were approaching reconstruction on buildings, and we've seen them move forward with courage, and I think we're optimistic. Taps Off Main here, they plan to reopen on Friday at noon. And of course, they'll still be following the suggested social distancing. And I think for the most part, if not totally, our downtown businesses have been respectful. They've done their part to ensure the safety of others, and now we're seeing them pursuing commerce. And the local community has been good to support online sales, and I think relationships have been strengthened, and I look forward to seeing what will come. I'm very optimistic for them, but I do encourage the community to think about our downtown businesses as well as our community businesses at large. And it's a good time to shop local. It's a good time to pursue what is in our community, and allow these folks to assist you and be there for you.
No question. Definitely a good time to start back, and to start back locally and support those small businesses. And again, so much thanks to the businesses downtown who have really sort of been the trailblazers in trying to keep things going through some difficult times. Let's close now on the farmers market, something that people might not know that you're also heavily invested in, and really provide the many hours of manpower that goes into putting on a farmers market in the city of Columbia. That is all thanks to you. We just started the farmers market in May. Of course, our farmers market generally runs May through October, if I'm remembering correctly. So we just started the new season. talk just briefly about our vendors. And I know there's some certain procedures that one has to go through now to come to the farmers market. Hopefully that'll continue to ease on out of here, but talk a little bit about Farmers Market 2020.
Columbia Farmers Fresh Market is our seasonal market. It does run May through October. Currently, we are offering products on Saturdays, 8 a.m. until 12 noon. It's possible that in June that we'll see our Tuesday, Thursday market resume. We have 14 vendors registered, and we do have room for a few more. There is an application process and a vending fee associated with vending, and individuals who might be interested, would like to learn more, can contact the Main Street office, and we'll be happy to work with them to share more information and consider future vendors. Our customers, we are currently at the market on a typical day on Saturday. We are following social distancing guidelines. We're making certain that our customers are comfortable shopping with us. And I can tell you that they're grateful that we're there. When we opened, we saw a manageable number of customers arrive at the market, eager to follow the guidelines that we had set forth, and they are just pleased to be able to access hand-tended items, everything from fresh produce, fresh berries, vegetables, fruits, and we have handcrafted breads there. We have pasture-raised meats. Everything is ultra fresh, and I've seen folks really interested in supporting themselves in a healthy way during this time, and they know that the Columbia Farmers Fresh Market is a source where they can gather those items. And we have outstanding vendors who are very serious and diligent about what they produce. And it pleases me greatly that we can offer that at the Riverwalk Park. It's a very important program in our community.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, Kristi, between your talking about all the things that can be accessed at Farmers Fresh Market on Saturdays at Riverwalk Park from 8 to 12, and then seeing your backdrop at Taps Off Main, I'm getting both hungry and thirsty. So with that, we will sign off. But I do want to say again, Kristi, thank you so much for your leadership and all that you're doing to promote all things downtown Columbia, commerce, retail, residential, farmers market, you name it. Your hands are all over those things, and your product has been exemplary the last several years as we've seen such good things happening downtown. And we know that that's going to continue, and we appreciate all that you're doing to make that happen. So on behalf of Kristi Martin with Columbia Main Street, I'm Chaz Molder for Virtual Hall number 10. We'll sign off now, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again, Kristi, for joining us.
Thank you.